Hey everybody, John with Owl. Today we are talking Owl ski locker. As you can tell by my incredibly professional setup, a roller door with a half fake van in front of it. We got a bunch of stuff on my van since we are not near any snow. We're not putting a ski box on one of the Owl Ultimate builds that we have here in the building. So we're just gonna throw it on one of our jigs. It's actually a set of doors that we use to prototype and test all of our products before they leave our building to make sure that they fit perfectly on your vehicle. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna talk about installing the Owl ski locker. If you don't have one already, you probably can't get one until next ski season. We did sell out. You can mount this to a B2. You can also mount this to a Sherpa. Both work perfectly well. We pre-drilled the box. We had to pick one. We pre-drilled the box for the B2, which we're going to show you today. But I'm also going to show you how to do a quick and easy template for the Sherpa. If you want to mount it on a Sherpa, it's basically the same as mounting it on a B2. You're just going to be drilling holes before you mount it. Good news is the ski box that I keep pointing to that you can't really see off camera is made entirely of aluminum. So when you drill a hole, you don't need to worry about future rusting or painting it or anything like that. And because it's aluminum, it's softer, so you should be able to drill it out fairly quickly. All right, let's get started. See, I'm doing my best prices right here. This is the Owl ski locker. I think they're gorgeous. We're obviously biased. Looks really, really killer on the back of your van. Ski locker, we also use it for snowboard. Sorry, the snowboard people yell at me like, it's not just a ski locker. We also can do golf clubs. So if you don't have snow, but you carry your golf clubs a lot, it's really good for that. In fact, let's talk early on about that. This, it should come wrapped in foam, is your removable shelf. Really cool shelf. It kind of cradles everything in there. This is mountable inside the box. Let me open up the box here. We are on a bit of a slope. So, oh, I have an assistant. Beautiful. All right, you can let it go forward. Actually, that's fine. So you've got this track in here. Let me try to grab the camera and see if you can see that. So you have this track in here on both sides, and this is what we're going to be mounting the shelf to if you want to mount a shelf. Now, if you want to carry skis and snowboards, if they're short, no worries. But if most of the people that are going to be doing skis and snowboards, there's a shelf. See, totally adjustable. If you have tall skis, that thing is loud. If you have tall skis, you're probably not going to mount the shelf. You can just throw it in your garage with all of your other items that will sit there forever and ever. But that way you have your shelf if you ever want to use it. Sorry, I'm putting you all back on this tripod. So that's your shelf. This is your shelf hardware. It comes in this bag here. So you've got these carriage bolts that fit in those squares, and then your nuts here. I don't know off the top of my head what size wrench that is, but the other hardware that comes with it is the hardware that you're going to use. The hardware you're going to use to actually attach it to the carrier. These are 3/8 bolts, and same, you are going to actually use a 7/32. Isn't SAE fun? 7/32 Allen and a 9/16 wrench to get this installed. As I mentioned before, you've got 4 holes. Those are drilled out specifically for the B2. Let's talk about the B2 and how you want to mount it. You're going to want to get the weight of the ski locker because it is a bigger, heavier product closest to the axis of rotation. In this case, it's the hinges. It's going to make the door easier to close. It's going to put less stress on the carrier as a whole, and that's where we want to keep the weight of the product. So my suggestion to you, and you can keep this area a little bit this side open if you want to mount like an Agency 6 shovel on this side, maybe even a one-up tray, different options. My suggestion is to mount the ski box over towards the hinge side of the carrier. You can actually, you know, whether you want to cover this strip or not, but we'll go through that. You obviously don't want to mount it too far over. You don't want to cover any taillights, which theoretically would be right here. So we're going to get it mounted on here. It's going to mount to these top strips and the bottom strips. Again, we've got 4 holes. I'm going to try to do this solo. I've got my beautiful assistant here to help me if need be. Let's talk about the hardware. See this? This is a washer with a rubber gasket. That makes things extra waterproofy. So what we're going to do is the washer, well, now it's put on this bolt, but it won't come on the bolt. So we're going to put this on, and what this is going to do is keep water from entering the box, which is a nice thing. So I guess it doesn't really matter if you put this on the inside or the outside. It's going to seal it regardless. But what you do want to make sure is that that rubber is facing towards the box so it can seal it. Okay, originally I was gonna try to mount this thing solo. I just kind of gave a trial run, not gonna happen. So I'm gonna have my esteemed colleague here help me. And he pointed out something really important, which is this very last hole here. Pretty hard to get to with a wrench or your fingers or whatever. So probably wanna shoot for these holes here.
Yeah, I won't be able to reach my arm in that, so.
Okay, that's fine. You ready?
Yeah.
We got it. Down, or sorry, this side swing a little bit. There we go. I think you gotta let me rotate it towards me. There we go. Okay. Those are in. Now I gotta grab my trusty nut here. So what we're doing is we've gotten the 2 upper bolts in and we're just holding it. And I don't have the washer because that's gonna be too hard to get going right now. So I'm just putting nuts on to hold it in place. We will go back and put the washers on later. So I just put the nut on for those 2 bolts on top, and then we're gonna get the 2 bottom ones in, and then we'll take one of the top ones off, get a washer in there, retighten everything. I just put the bottom bolts in. Now we're gonna go in there with some nuts and washers and get that snugged down. And then what you'll notice here, now that I've kind of got that stuff, it's on there, we'll call it semi-securely. Look at this, Moto, you're getting some screen time. If you ever called customer service and talked to a guy named Moto, that's him and his sweet mullet. All right, so what we've done over here, you can see, we've lined it up with the edge of this trim. Now you can scoot it over if you want, but again, this is gonna be the most stable mounting, is setting it on this kind of, as you face it, right-hand rail. And if you look over here, you still got a decent amount of room on this if you, again, wanted to mount accessories or anything, even a one-up tray. If you were solo and wanted to do a one-up tray vertically and a ski box, you conceivably could leave it on your van all year long. All right, so now the bottom ones we have a little bit of time on since we're not holding the box up at the time we're trying to put the bolts in. So what I'm doing here now is I've got my washer. I'm gonna put my washer first. I mean, theoretically, you could probably get by without a washer, but it's better with it. So take the time, do it right. All right, got that one on. And again, sometimes you might need to back the bolt off a little bit or pull the box off a little bit to make sure you can fit that nut in there. Of course, this one's gonna be more fun because I gotta get dirty. I'm too delicate to lay on moist pavement, so I'm gonna put my little pad down because I'm a wuss. Okay. All right, got the bottom ones on, and I'm not gonna tighten anything down yet. Now what we're gonna do is go back up top and get the washers that should have been on there in the first place, because we were just hanging the box. The washer back on and then the nut back on. The more you do this kind of stuff, the better you get at it with your fingers and whatnot. All right, so we've got all the bolts in, all the waterproof washers in. So if you want to see that, Moto, you can see the waterproof washer, the rubber's facing the box. Those are all in, so now we're gonna get our tools, and there's no real technique to this. You're just gonna tighten down until everything's snug. And it's really important that, especially on vehicles that are meant to go off-road, washboard roads, those kinds of things, it's really, really important that you re-torque things. So what happens is things settle, and once they settle, the bolts tend to loosen. Now there are nylocks on these, but any off-road driving, thousands of miles can loosen bolts. So if you're taking this on and off every season, you're probably okay, but if you're leaving it on, you're gonna wanna re-torque this stuff after you've used it a little bit, because stuff will settle, stuff will move. How? Oh, there went some skin. Okay, so the tops are tight. I've left a little bit of myself in this box, and I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the bottom ones. I won't bore you with watching that, but once you have all of those tight, you're pretty much good to go. Now, if you have a Sherpa, I'm gonna show you how to mount that, but this is basically how you mount it to the B2. Let's close this up, and again, there's keys on the inside of the latch. The keys are the same, both top and bottom. You really only need to lock one. If you do have expensive skis in there, it's maybe, it's maybe a good idea to throw an extra padlock on there. Just make people extra, slow people down. You just want to be the last vehicle that they look to snag something from. But the box is very secure. I mean, this is one of the most secure ways you're gonna house your skis. It's gonna be more secure than in your vehicle. Smashing a window and getting skis out of a vehicle, breaking a roof rack, bracket, those are all way simpler than this, and people don't even know what's in here. So I think it's a really great product. Anyway, on to the Sherpa. All right, continuing with our high budget production value here, we've got the ski locker, snowboard locker, golf locker laid down on its face. We're gonna talk right now about mounting it to a Sherpa. If you're doing both at the same time, meaning the Sherpa's not on your vehicle yet, the easiest thing to do is this. Lay the box, put some cardboard down. You don't wanna lay it on concrete or anything, or it'll scratch it up. Cardboard, carpet inside your house, whatever. You're gonna wanna take the Sherpa. Now the same thing applies. When you're mounting it on the Sherpa, you're gonna wanna mount the box, justify it towards the bend side of the Sherpa, which is the tail light side. You don't want it to stick over per se. So I'm gonna measure off the bottom here. Will you grab a tape measure? So what you wanna do is, with the Sherpa, the hole spacing on the Sherpa is actually identical to the hole spacing on the B2. The only difference is the Sherpa is a little bit shorter than the B2, so we lose those bottom mounting holes. So what I've done is I've justified the box. Let me grab this camera. I've justified the box along this edge with that bend in the Sherpa. Then what I've done is I've grabbed the two holes, one in from the edge. You see, the Sherpa's sliding around a little bit, but those two holes line up. So it's not the furthermost hole, it's not this one. So those two holes line up. So if your Sherpa is not mounted on your vehicle yet, you can grab those two holes and then very easily mark the bottom ones. So I'm gonna take two of these 3/8 bolts just so we make sure that everything stays in the right place. I'm gonna take the nuts off and I'm just gonna drop these in the back. And that's just gonna make sure that we hold those top holes in the right spot. Okay, so those two holes are set up. And then you obviously want to make sure that this thing is kind of square. You can visually see that it's straight. You also can line up these bottom holes here are going to match up to these holes here, right? So as long as those are in line, you're going to make sure that your box is mounted straight. Let me show you that better, what I'm talking about. See how you have this line of holes here and this line of holes here? If you carry those lines all the way down, it's this hole and this hole that we're going to grab. And those are spaced the same as this. So what you can do is make sure that this is in line with this, right? And that's gonna make sure that everything's square when you mount it. So what I'm gonna do now is just go in here and draw this circle on the box. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take the whole Sherpa off. So the easiest thing, if you have your Sherpa, is to do what I just did. Now I have two holes here. They're in line with this, in line with this. We're keeping the top two holes and using those. We're gonna drill these out fairly easily. Just get a drill bit that's gonna be, you can test it on this hole. You want it to be roughly the same size as this. If it's slightly bigger, that's fine. If it's slightly smaller, as long as you can fit the 3/8 bolt through it, you're fine. This is the easiest. Now, if you have your Sherpa already mounted on your vehicle, then what I suggest is this. I'm gonna suggest that you draw these holes and you over drill them slightly. That to me is gonna be the fastest path to victory. So let me grab my tape measure. So if we measure from the hole on the bottom, I'm gonna measure from the very center of the hole. That's important. You don't wanna measure from the top of the hole or the bottom. Or if you do those things, then you have to make sure that you mark appropriately. Since I'm gonna mark the center of my hole where I'm drilling, I need to measure from the center of this hole. And that is 4 7/8. Let's make sure that we're similar over there. Yep, 4 7/8 on the nose. So if you have one of these boxes and your Sherpa is already mounted on your vehicle, you can take a tape measure and you can measure off of the holes below it and put a mark at that 4 7/8. And that's going to be dead center of that hole. And you just then want to measure from the edge and make sure that everything is square. This hole from the edge is, again, it's 4 7/8 from the edge. And so you want to make sure, just cross-reference to make sure that hole's in the right spot, 4 7/8. And again, on this side, this hole is 4 7/8. And again, 4 7/8. So get real familiar with the 4 7/8 number. You can also, if you over drill these holes slightly, there is a waterproof washer that's larger. And what that's going to do is going to allow you a little bit of variability. So if your hole moves on you slightly, if you didn't measure quite perfectly, it's going to work with that waterproof washer because it is oversized. So don't stress too much about getting this absolutely perfect. The other thing I recommend is either be very, it's not hard, but I'm just kind of going overboard. Be cognizant when you start your drill bit that it doesn't walk too much. I always suggest using a very small drill bit and drilling a pilot hole to keep the center of that drill bit in the same spot. The other option is if you have a punch, you can put that punch right in the hole, tap, tap, make a little dent, and then it's going to keep your drill bit from walking on you. So I'm going to leave it here. You can make templates with cardboard. If you want to put cardboard on this, draw those, flip the box on its back, draw the 4 holes, and then mount that to your Sherpa and try to get a pen in there and mark those holes on the backside. Also a possibility, but being that you're utilizing the top holes already, and these can be so easily measured off of the holes that are existing and they're in line, it seems like that's the fastest path to victory. So that is how you mount a B2 ski, snowboard, golf, and maybe something else box to your Sherpa and your B2. If you have any questions, we've got a great customer support team, and I'm not just saying that because my friend Moto is standing here. They do a fantastic job. You can get information from them by calling us or emailing us. Thanks so much.